Welcome to today's episode of The Irresistible Factor. Today I have a guest on who is in a category that I'm really interested in. So I'm really happy to introduce Ret Taylor, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of NED. And I'm wanting you to tell us all about NED and what it stands for and what kinds of things you make. So welcome
Sure.
to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the company and what you're doing, and then we can talk about things like how you got your name and some of the other stuff.
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, so we just crossed our sixth anniversary, and 6 years ago, I was really almost in some ways desperate to start this business. I had another business, very successful. It was in a space that I had almost no passion for, though, and spent 12 years doing it. We had offices around the world. I started it in New York City, and could have made me very comfortable for the rest of my life. But I was looking at my life, and I wanted to do something that was much more aligned with my passion and purpose, and really found that passion on a 50 day time I spent in the wilderness in the summer 2016. Pretty much on
And
my own, living and working outdoors.
were you escaping from your last job?
A little bit. I was kind of healing from it. My
Mhm.
wife and daughter were away for 2 months in the Netherlands, where my wife's from.
Oh, wow.
And our lease ended on June 1st. And I thought they weren't going to be back until August 1st. And I thought, why would I rent a house, spend all this money when I'm quite happy on a in a sleeping bag on the ground.
Wow.
And so I traded in my BMW, bought a 4Runner, and threw my tent and sleeping bag and fly rod and mountain bike in the back, along with my laptop and a whole setup so that I could work outdoors. And I spent that entire June and July living and working in all over Colorado and Utah, from riverbeds and mountaintops to fun little mountain towns. And it was an experiment to see how much I could thrive when I spent that much time outdoors, eating super healthily, working out, being active, connecting with people. And the hypothesis was that I would thrive pretty quickly, and I sure did. Uh,
Wow.
and it was during that time that yeah, I realized that that business was not what I wanted to be doing, and that I wanted to help others heal and thrive through nature. And that was really the beginning. It took another 2 years to start NED. I had some different ideas and finally narrowed it down to helping people with natural remedies, which is what NED does. We create some of the world's best natural remedies for issues like sleep and stress, anxiety, joint muscle pain, inflammation, immunity. Um, and that too coincided with my mom's breast cancer. She had breast cancer back in 2014 and decided she would not do chemo or radiation and instead battle her cancer through nutrition and movement. And honestly, that scared the hell out of me because I
I'm
wanted her
sorry.
to,
That sounds terrifying.
yeah, I wanted her to do everything she could to stay with us.
Yeah.
And she was adamant. So I went out and I started learning everything I could about natural remedies and the sorts of things that she was willing to do, and really found a passion for it. And coupled that with that element I spoke to a bit about, with the connection with the natural world. And so it was around that time that once I found that purpose and passion, I physically at a certain point could no longer do the previous business, which was in the hospitality furniture space, and connected with my buddy Adrian, who is the best storyteller I know, who had also been going through an interesting period in his career. He had had a major burnout in front of his entire company 2 years prior. Very public burnout, panicked, and um, really, kind of broke down in front of his entire company. And everybody told him, go see a shrink and get some Xanax and come back to
Yes.
work.
Yep.
And he decided that he was going to figure out what the root problem was and see if he could address the root. And he was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And he went on to go spend 2 years living out of a backpack and traveling to all the ashrams and mountaintops you do when you're looking for yourself and how to heal. And, he's written about this extensively. He's very open about it. And I respect him tremendously for that vulnerability. But, we both had similar paths at that time, and they both led to Ned.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, they almost don't even sound like real stories. Like you hear about things like this, right? Where someone just is like, that's it, I'm going off the grid. But you almost never talk to humans who've done it. And now you're talking about you and your partner who both had similar experiences, although his sounds maybe a little bit more dramatic.
Mm.
That's really amazing. And you already knew each other at that point?
Yeah, we barely knew each other. We were kind of friends of friends in New York City. We both went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and Boulder circles in New York City. We respected each other. We respected each other's careers. And when I started putting Ned together, I went out and I met all different types of farmers, and I was thinking about wanting higher quality products, more transparency, and knew that it would be important to tell the story around that. And so really wanted to have a great storyteller, marketer, brand development person with me on this journey. And, my previous business I'd done on my own, and got a taste with another business of what it's like to have a full-time business partner, and really liked that experience. And I'm so grateful that Adrian is my co-founder and co-CEO. And, we've put a lot of thought and energy into those relationships, as well as our friendship.
Since you brought it up, let's talk about the co-CEO thing, because I think that's interesting and I think it's unusual. And it sounds like there might be some complexity to it, but you sound really positive about it. So I'd love to hear you just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we honestly, it started off with everybody wanted to talk to the CEO, right? So neither of us have too big of an ego, and we said, well, all right, let's both be CEOs. Then we realized that, all right, maybe there's a bit more to that. And at the same time, thereabout, we hit $1 million in revenue, and said, all right, we've got a business on our hands. We said, then what could take us down? A lawsuit could take us down, a recall of our products could take us down, and a partnership fight, which I saw with my father, could take us down. And it happens far too often. So we shored up the recall, we hired the right attorneys on retainer, and then we hired a business coach to help us create the parameters and guidelines for us to work together and make sure that we don't have an impasse and make sure that we are on the same page. And we worked with a great guy, Tim Porthouse, here in Colorado. Tim's an amazing business coach. We found him after 1.5 years of searching, and all the coaches that we found, they hadn't been there, done that. And so Tim had grown a business and sold it for $400 million. He had 4 partners in that. Not only that, but he was a father, a husband, and a triathlete. So he really checked all the boxes for us. But he really gave us the framework to work together to make sure that we stayed on the same page.
And do you really share responsibilities 50-50, or are you kind of like, do you have separate things that you're both each responsible for?
Yeah, we're both co-CEO, but Adrian's really the CMO and I'm the COO.
Okay.
And then we share the CEO responsibilities.
Interesting. And it sounds like it's working out well for you.
Yeah, it's working out great. Because again, we've really done a good job of leaving ego at the door.
Yeah.
And what we can do is really be the 2 heads better than one, and share and show the blind spots. And so we also have a bedrock that says whatever we think is what we truly think is best for the business. And so there's no critique, there's no personal
Yeah,
assault. It's just, you think that's what's best, and this is what I think what's best. Let's discuss, and one of us will come around.
that's cool. I want to ask you one question before we move on to, I want to talk about the name, but I also want to, I love what you said. You said, we talked about what could take us down. I don't think I've heard anybody say that. And I'm sure people think about things like that sort of as you're going through, but I don't know how many people actually say out loud, let's talk about what could take us down. I think that is so smart. And it's such a great thing to be prepared for, because there are, I mean, you know, you're a founder of a business and there are a million things that could take you down, but understanding what they are and sort of planning for them makes a lot of sense and sounds like a really smart thing to do. What made you guys do that?
Well, I think I saw my father's business. He had a wonderful business, and he had a very spiteful customer who basically sued him out of existence. And no one thought that could happen, and it did. And so
Yep.
that was burned into me as in my mid-20s. And so there's that. And then my father also struggled with his business partner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw examples right there in my life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to think about, because it lets you, I mean, if you can say, okay, we're not going to get taken down by these 5 things, there might be 50 other ones, but at least we've covered some of the major ones. I think that's really brilliant. I want to hear about the name, because, and then I want to hear, like, you started making product, and that wasn't what you did, right? You weren't in health and wellness. You weren't a product maker. You weren't a supplements guy. I mean, you said furniture, right?
Yeah.
That's
Hospitality, furniture,
what
fixtures, and equipment.
that, I mean, the shift is almost unbelievable. So talk about the name, and then tell me how you started even figuring out what to do.
Yeah, sure. So, when I first was looking for products for my mom's battle with cancer, one of the things that came up was CBD. And I bought some CBD for my mom. I brought it home to her, and she kind of freaked out. She was like, is this legal? I've never smoked marijuana. I'm not about to start now. And I'm like, Mom, I got it at the grocery store. It's like for kids and pets, and it's completely legal. But I remembered that conversation, and I knew that conversation was going to happen millions of times around the world as CBD began to really take off. And and so we wanted to have an incredibly approachable name. We wanted our company to look and feel more like a, a beauty product or a bath product. And so we were thinking about names, and we were thinking about farmers' names, and we decided that Ned was a good farmer's name, and we wanted to build a persona around our farmer Ned, who's also sort of like, he or she is your neighbor who has a green thumb, knows the natural remedies, and is also a shoulder to cry on, and will come over and feed your dog and watch your kids, or you know wax poetic on anything. He's Ned is a Renaissance man or woman, and so Ned has kind of become this like ideal that I try to live up to as an individual as well.
And how has it gone with the naming for you? Like, how do you feel about it? Do people remember it? Do they get it? Is it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's gone really well. I People definitely remember it. It's very simple. Going back though, Ned is both male and female, but obviously the name is much more male, and 70% of our customers are female. So that would probably be something I would reconsider in the naming days.
Well, interestingly, I know this from my marketing, all my years of marketing and testing things. Women relate to men just as well as they relate to women, but men do not relate to women the same. So if you name something a woman's name, you will probably alienate most men, but that's not true of naming something a man's name. So maybe not a mistake at all.
Yeah, I'm also glad one of my best friends is Justin Gold, who started Justin's Nut Butter.
Yep.
And Justin he sold his business and has exited, but he is forever, Justin Nut Butter. And it thinks it's so wonderful that the name of the company is not Ret. And I because you
Yep.
forever have to be that. So
Yep. 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 Did you get inspired by him at all? Did you know him before you started the business?
I knew him before I started the business, and yeah, very inspired by Justin. He's an amazing guy who's really rallied wonderful people around him to create something extraordinary.
Yes.
And he did it with, values and compassion and really kind of the bolder way
Yeah.
of natural foods. And yeah, Justin's a mentor who is inspiring in so many ways. Just a great guy.
Awesome. I want to hear about how you started. How did you decide what products you wanted to make? How did you figure out how to make them?
It was really born from my mom's needs as well as my own. And then also looking here in the backyard. Um, and CBD at the time was pretty unknown. And very few people, in fact, 3% of the US population had ever heard of CBD. My mom was using it and seeing amazing results. I was using it as well. I was a competitive marathon and ultra marathon runner, and I replaced ibuprofen with CBD and cannabinoids. And so, yeah, also I was looking at the industry and asking questions of it and not getting great answers. And so wanted to create a brand that was all about that transparency and quality and saw a gap there for it. And so we started with CBD. It's here in Colorado. This is the most prolific place where it's grown.
Yeah.
But we never intended to be a CBD brand only. It was all about those natural remedies. Magnesium was very much on the forefront of that, and we could have very well started with it instead. And we have a few other products that really are designed to help us reconnect with nature. But the CBD was a great one to start with because it got us out there. We hit the wave right at the perfect time, and we were able to ride that. It propelled us into our next category, which is magnesium. And we were able to bootstrap the business and still are, really because of that.
Talk about what products you have now. So you have a line. It's not just CBD and magnesium. It's way more extensive than that at this point, right?
I wouldn't say way more extensive.
Okay.
We have a number of products, but they tend to fall into either the hemp or
Okay.
magnesium categories.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a few outside that are immunity blends, some of our topicals, and we're working on some exciting new products as well. But the general thread that runs through all of them is that they are natural remedies. They are about really bringing those great natural ingredients from all over the world to people in really thoughtful formats and formulations. And honestly, my favorite part of the business right now is our farm to net program, where we source all of our botanicals and herbs, all the beautiful ingredients that go into our products that aren't minerals per se. We source directly from amazing farms, mostly in America. The vast majority in America, the vast majority of those are female or minority owned, and they're all organic certified farms. And these are like, small family farms that are just wonderful. And by doing that, we actually just lowered our prices on a lot of our products.
Wow.
Yeah, and we did that because we actually pay farmers more than what we would if we were buying it from a distributor.
Mhm.
And they're making basically twice what they would make if they were selling to a distributor, and we're paying less than what we would pay to that distributor. So we're saving money by buying direct from farmers
Awesome.
and
Amazing.
helping them out. Because with farmers, I mean, we thought about having our own farm, but then realized there's just no certainty in farming. I mean, until you have the money in the bank, you don't know if you're going to make any money that year.
Right.
From, grasshoppers to hail to market fluctuations to bad vendors and payers. You have no idea. So there's giving farmers any level of certainty is a big blessing for them, and it allows them to go and grow on more acreage and purchase the equipment they need and put their kids in through school. So
Is that more work for you guys?
yeah, it is, but it's why we're here. My previous business is about the traditional bottom line. We have a quadruple bottom line. And that is the financial element, of course, but then it's also how we impact our customers, how we impact our team and suppliers, and then how we impact the planet too. And we really, truly do evaluate the success of our business based on those four elements.
That's awesome too. I don't think I've ever heard quadruple bottom line either.
I heard triple bottom line. The yerba mate company, Guabera, they
Yep.
have a triple bottom line, and that was super inspiring. And they do, the finance, they do the team internally, and they do the planet. And we thought, a big component of this, we're here to help people like my mom, and we want to see what kind of impact we're able to have on them. So we included that in what we call a quadruple bottom line.
That's amazing. I need to ask about your mom because you've mentioned her a bunch of times. How did that go? Were you
Well,
able to help her?
yeah, she beat her first cancer. She had breast cancer. She beat that on a really strict plant-based diet
Wow.
with a lot of movement. She was cancer-free for 5 years, and then she got a different type of cancer. It was very aggressive, and she passed away on October 3rd, 3 years ago.
Sorry.
Yeah, but she's been the inspiration all along, and she's a big part of what we do at Ned. And she passed away on a Friday night. I was in the office on Monday morning at 5:30. It just felt like the absolute best way of honoring her.
Yeah.
And Adrian also lost his mother to cancer. So this is we're deeply passionate about this.
It comes through loud and clear that you are, and it's amazing to hear you talk about it because you could just tell it's coming from such a personal place, and it's such a passion for you. Like there's nothing that you're saying that sounds, I mean, you have to have had some challenges and ups and downs, even though you're talking about it right now in such a beautiful way. But talk about that. There have to have been some hurdles along the way. I mean, you started a company, you didn't make products before that. You weren't a naturopath. Like you were starting from,
Yeah,
not knowing
yeah,
much, right?
yeah. But having the confidence of an entrepreneur that
Mm-hmm.
had been
Yep.
figuring his way through business for 15 years, from Saudi Arabia to Brazil to New York to Miami, back to Saudi, back to Boulder. And it's just about confidence and probably some naivete as well. But it's been the biggest challenge of my life, honestly. This is not an easy business, and it's become increasingly more difficult over the last few years.
Because of what?
Primarily customer acquisition costs.
Mm-hmm.
When Apple changed iOS 14, it became very difficult for all direct consumer companies to target and acquire customers at a customer acquisition cost that makes sense for the business.
Yeah.
That was when you started getting those notices. Would you like, it's a privacy thing, right?
Yes.
Framed in privacy. Would you
Right.
like Apple to track your movement across the internet? Most people say no, which makes it very difficult